podcast, we're going to be reviewing how to write an exponential equation from a table of values. And we'll begin by just reviewing that the form that we're going to write our equations in is in the form y equals a times b to the x power, where a represents the initial value and b represents the multiplier or the growth factor for the exponential model. Now, we'll probably notice a couple of things about this table of values that we have right away. First thing you're probably going to notice is that we do have growth here, that we have going from a 6 to a 15 to a 34 is going to represent something that's getting bigger. So we know the value of b is going to be greater than 1. We also notice that we are missing some values. We've got the third term, the fifth term, and the seventh term, but we don't have the in-between values. And we also don't have the starting value because we don't know where x equals 0. So let's begin by rewriting this table, including those values that we're missing. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3, 4, 5, and I guess I don't need to write all of them because I won't be using all of the values, but I'll probably use the first one 6.75. The second one, I don't know that yet, I'll find it. And then the fifth one is 15.1875. Now, if you remember at the very beginning of our unit on exponents and exponential models, we found that the pattern in a table of values for exponentials is one of multiplication. So we know that to get from, say, 6.75 to the next term, we have to multiply by some number, and we call that number b. To get from this one to this one, we also have to multiply by that same number, and we again will call that b. So to get from 6.75 to 15.1875, we're going to have to multiply by b twice. I'm going to write an equation that shows me how to do that. I'll start at 6.75. I'm going to multiply by b and then by b again, which is the same as multiplying by b squared, and the result of that will be 15.1875. Now I have an equation here, and I'm just going to solve that for b. So we'll divide both sides by 6.75. I'm going to grab my calculator and type that in. And when you do, you'll get b squared equals 2.25. The next thing we'll do is take the square root of both sides. Keep in mind, b, of course, is a positive number because it's an exponential equation, so we won't write plus or minus today. We'll just write b equals 1.5. So we've already answered half of our problem. We now know that this is going to have a multiplier of 1.5. Now the next thing that we're going to want to do is find the starting value, the value of a. So let's write down our equation that we know so far. Here's what we know so far. We know y equals a, which we don't know yet, times 1.5 to the x power. And what we're going to do now is we're going to write another equation that's going to help us to figure out what a is. And to do that, we're going to grab a pair of values from our table. We can use any of the three that are given. I'll use the first one, the smallest numbers. I'm going to replace the y with 6.75. I'm going to replace the x with 3. And now I have an equation that I can solve for a. I'll begin by cubing the 1.5, so that'll be 6.75 equals a times 1.5 to the third power, again I'm punching that on my calculator, is 3.375. Divide both sides of this equation by 3.375 and a ends up being 2. I now have everything I need to write the equation. I found the multiplier, I found the initial starting value, and I'm going to write my final answer now. The final answer is y equals a, which we found to be 2, b, which we found to be 1.5, to the x power. And that is our exponential model that fits this table of values.